Complete game coverage of the Cougars is right here on the KSL Sports Zone. It's a Big 12 title game showdown for Kalani Sitake and the Cougars as they square off against Texas Tech for a spot in the college football playoff. Exclusive Big 12 title game coverage on the Zone is presented by JCW's, the Burger Boys. Quality and a lot of it. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G, presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
So excited to kick off the Cougar 2 hours with the legend, the king of all voices, the man that makes the magic in the booth for the BYU Cougars, the great, the one and only, Greg Wrubell. Greg, how are you, buddy?
I'm great. I wouldn't be what I am without you, Hans. Great to be with you today and always.
Oh, man, it's so great to hear your voice. And I saw the picture you put out of the booth and the angle of the field, and I'm sitting here by Tyler, and I can't even think straight because I can't wait to be in that booth and be on the field. Just talk about the nest, how the field looks, and is it the same booth that you've called a couple of the other games from in that stadium?
Yeah, certainly the Oklahoma game. I'm trying to remember. It felt like for the TCU game, since it wasn't a postseason game, it wasn't one of those special games like Oklahoma was. It might have been closer to the middle, but I tend to believe it was the same as well. So at AT&T Stadium, you're pretty high. You're way up in the corner. Quite frankly, for radio, it's suboptimal. I mean, when you're radio, you kind of have to see, pretty much everything at the best angle possible because you are the eyes for your audience, and it's great where you're between the 30s at least. And we've had some venues, Hans, that haven't been that, but they haven't been too far outside the 30s. But this is very different. This is behind an end zone, high up in a corner. Have his work cut out for him on Saturday morning, as will we. You'll have the binoculars firmly affixed to your eyes throughout, and you'll be tempted to call the game off the big screen that extends across the field. But it's awesome. It's a great venue. It's an unbelievable setting, and it's an awesome game. And so you don't quibble too much. But yeah, if you're a radio guy and could have your druthers, you'd want to be somewhere between the 30s, kind of mid-level. And this one, it's just not that case. I think but we're not we're in the same booths that that the Cowboys and their opponents and Spanish radio use up in that corner too. So that's kind of the way it is. A lot of NFL venues have gone that way. They've kept the prime real estate for hospitality in the middle, and they've kind of pushed the broadcasters in, at least the radio broadcasters, to the corners, which is ironic because radio is kind of where you need to have the best possible vantage point. Long answer to your question: yes, I think it's the same booth I was in previously. And look forward to getting in there Saturday morning and seeing how it all feels in person. But it should be a blast either way.
It's going to be a blast. And speaking of a good venue, it's now being reported that venue is sold out. And I was sitting here kind of having a conversation with Tyler and Lloyd and talking about being there in Dallas at the Cotton Bowl against Kansas State. I felt like it was 80-20 BYU fans. I know Texas Tech is very close, drivable distance, and I'm sure they're buying up a ton of tickets. But how do you feel about the Cougar Nation making the trip to Dallas and a lot of Cougar Nation that lives in Dallas? What do you think that stadium's going to look like come Saturday morning?
Well, whichever tickets were available for BYU fans to buy, they bought. I mean, there's no doubt that BYU will represent well. Yes, Texas Tech is the more proximate team. It's a much easier get to for them. But, it's not like everyone's coming from Utah for this game either. We already know that, if anything is around Texas, BYU fans are going to find their way there. So I look forward to an outstanding atmosphere. And I think the Big 12, if all goes well, I might be seeing a few BYU Texas Tech matchups over the years to come. Both Joey McGuire and Kalani Sitake both got extended yesterday. Both have strong footings in terms of resources, and so this may not be the last time they meet in a postseason. Certainly, you want to see BYU in that game as frequently as possible. But just the fact that BYU got to this game in year 3 of the Big 12. What a major accomplishment. The fact that BYU tied for first in this league in each of the last 2 years after just 1 year of a runway. Amazing. What BYU's done in a power conference setting, going 22-3, 15-3 in the league over 2 years of power conference football, coming right out of the independent ranks, basically with only 1 year to kind of get your feet wet. it's an incredible accomplishment, and it has to be honored and respected. And even if BYU doesn't find itself playing in the college football playoff in either of these last 2 years, they certainly prove themselves worthy on a national scale, even if the committee or the national media don't properly recognize it. And yet, with all that said, Hans, I'm looking at this game Saturday as a playoff game. It's a play-in game in a lot of ways, right? I mean, BYU knows they win and they're in. If they don't win, we've already seen how the things look with the committee right now. So I think the playoffs already begun for BYU. And normally in a true play-in situation in other sports, you're playing a team that's kind of on the periphery, on the fringes of trying to get into the playoff. It so happens BYU has to be one of the best teams in the country in their play-in game, which is different from a true play-in, if you will. And Texas Tech, I mean, they're right there. I mean, their numbers. You go through them, where do you find a soft spot? Where is the Texas Tech soft spot? Where are they not very good? You have to really, really strain your eyes to find an area where Texas Tech isn't exceptional. And if there's one area where BYU could maybe hope to have a difference this Saturday, Hans, I think that BYU, when it's going well, and the first game in Lubbock was not a good offensive game for BYU. LJ Martin was still not himself yet. But I think, Texas Tech, if it lacks anywhere, the offense probably lags a bit behind the special teams and certainly behind the defense. As good as BYU's defense is, Texas Tech's defense is elite. And even if LJ were at full speed that last time, how many yards would he have gotten? Because Texas Tech is the number one rush defense in the country. So, it's as tall a task as BYU's ever going to face. And, it'll take an outstanding effort to be in the game with Texas Tech. But having been through it already, Hans, I think it gives BYU, if not an advantage, it gives BYU maybe something they can turn to that the Red Raiders can't. In that, we talked about this in postgame. Texas Tech kind of feels, well, if we just go do what we do, we'll be fine. It was good enough to beat BYU. It was good enough to beat everybody else, thump everybody else. Let's just go beat Texas Tech and we'll be fine. Let's just go be ourselves. We'll do what we do. BYU doesn't have that luxury. They can't go into it saying, let's just do what we do and we'll be fine. They've got to do something different than they did against Texas Tech a few weeks ago. And so, BYU has more motivation to do things differently and ideally better than they did a few weeks ago. LJ Martin's feeling better. The special teams, you wouldn't count on making the same kind of mistakes they made in that game, and they all came in they came sequentially so quickly and so early in that game, Hans. It really threw BYU off. And so by the end of the day, there you see BYU at minus 18 yards in average starting field position margin, minus 3 in turnover margin. Those two numbers alone, you're dead. You're dead. Mm-hmm. You can't win that game. And so if they just flip those two numbers, Hans, I'm looking for that. If they can just play even or a little plus in average starting field position, and if they can be even or plus in the turnover margin, their chances to beat Texas Tech go up exponentially.
Agreed, totally agreed. I know that we got to wait until this evening to see our initial reports for injuries and availability, but Chase Roberts has been a name that everybody's been looking at. We saw Austin Liusa go down on the field last week. He did come back in the game.
He came back, yeah.
Do you have any insights into potential the potential usage of a Chase Roberts or maybe an Austin Liusa?
Well, we'll wait for the reports, but I mean, I think these weeks have given enough time for guys like Chase Roberts and Waylon Lapuaho and even Sione Moa to I think feel being close to back in the mix. Let's wait till what we see online tonight when the reports come out. But I think enough weeks have passed. You can start thinking about maybe seeing those guys back on the field, and it would be the perfect time for BYU, as tough as the task is going to be on Saturday. So nothing determined yet, but I'm going to look to see if those names pop up in something less than doubtful or out this week. We've seen Sione out for so many weeks, hasn't played a conference game, and wouldn't it be nice if he finds himself able to get back on the field at this time? Chase, I think the hope last week, Hans, was that if they sit him against UCF, they could play him against Texas Tech. And then Waylon Lapuaho, when he was injured, I don't think it was considered to be a season-ending injury. And so I think the door was still open for Waylon as well. And so those three names, again, nothing firm yet, but those three names would be three really, really important names to have back for this game on Saturday.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. All right, so Greg, you kind of went through the success of BYU over the last 2 years, and we saw that lead to the pinnacle, which went down yesterday evening, the announcement of Kalani Sitake and his extension. If you would, just give us your thoughts. And I know you build great relationships with these coaches. I've talked to Bronco. Bronco absolutely loves and adores you. I know you were close with Lavelle. I know you've been close with Kalani. Getting to see a friend of yours with this extension, what does it mean to you, and what do you think that this extension means to BYU?
Well, what it means to BYU is they can expect to have Lavelle Edwards-type longevity with a guy who most closely embodies Lavelle as a person and a person of importance to the program. I think he's that big. I think the commitment to Kalani is unprecedented, and I think his commitment to BYU will be reciprocal. It's great that his name gets brought up for big-time jobs because that means he's having big-time success. But I think what BYU's done now is put him in a realm, and you know, I don't think the specifics are necessarily the be-all and end-all here, but I think they've put him in a realm and his program in a realm where there won't be too many other programs that can come and say, we can do what BYU can't. I think he should feel from this point forward that BYU can give him and his program everything it needs to succeed at the highest levels and levels commensurate with those teams in the Big Ten or the SEC. And if you have that, plus everything else Kalani values about the BYU program and about Cougar Nation, you've got a really good situation. And I don't think we're going to be doing this every year, Hans. I don't think this is going to be an annual exercise. I think this is a moment in time. I think there are certain programs that spotted openings to take a run, but I don't think this is going to be something we have to deal with every year. And I think the size of the commitment and the measure of the commitment that the school have made to Kalani and his staff and his players will have to ensure that. And so, I think as long as he keeps winning games at the clip he's been winning games, and I don't think that should change in the years to come, I think you've got someone that can be here essentially as long as he wants to be. And I hope Kalani's the coach as long as I'm doing this. That would be my hope. And I know you as a teammate of his and a friend of his have to feel the same way, that you'd like to work with nobody other than the guy we get to work with right now. And you're right. I mean, BYU's been blessed with great head coaches and great coaches to work with. Bronco's right in that mix for me. I mean, those were really enjoyable years with Bronco Mendenhall, and I learned a lot from him about how to do my job and what matters in football. I was still young when Lavelle was the head coach, but all those years on the sidelines that I spent with Paul James, those 9 seasons, those were Lavelle Edwards years. And I got to walk the field and be around him pregame, halftime, postgame, and get the full Lavelle Edwards experience for someone who was not a player. And so, yeah, I consider myself super fortunate to have this run of great men to work with and be around. And I think Cougar Nation and the BYU football program is going to benefit immensely from this latest commitment to Kalani and his staff.
Greg, as I saw the videos come out yesterday of the announcement and then his press conference and some of the tears that he shed for fans, his players, his family, and then seeing the announcement that he made to the team on the field, there was a worry that this could be a distraction. After watching all the videos, seeing the players' reaction, don't you feel that this could be as much of an inspiration as it could be a distraction?
Yeah, a rallying point, right? I mean, is there a more motivated team in America than BYU right now? How could there be? You've lost to Texas Tech, so you get the chance for payback. You know what's on the line. It's win and you're in. Right? You can't trust the committee at this point. And then you just got your guy for the foreseeable future. And early in the week, there were questions whether that would be the case or not. And so it came early enough in the week that they can get a regular work week in with no distractions now. I think Monday they might have been a little bit maybe off kilter, just wondering how serious this thing was. Maybe even into yesterday, the thoughts, is this going to happen or not? And then it comes early enough in the week that you can go full effort and full focus. And now you're kind of doing it, to support Kalani and show everybody that this commitment was grounded in something that can be translated into success on the field on Saturday. And so, yeah, I think BYU is going to be the most motivated team in the country this weekend for those big reasons, and having Kalani be part of it, I think can only help to inspire his program. This extension, only helps to inspire his program and his players this week.
Well, I'm leveraging Greg for a 12-hour pregame and a 12-hour postgame attached to this Big 12 championship. I have not got the commitment from Matt Baiamonte yet, but I would love it, Greg. But I don't think it's 12. We're kicking things off. It'd be, 8 o'clock local?
It'll be 8 o'clock local, and, we tend to put together between a 7.5 and an 8.5 hour broadcast. And I think Saturday will be certainly in the same realm there. It'll be a fantastic day of football, and just to be in this position is extraordinary. When you were independent, 3 years ago, in fall of 2022, you were finishing your last year of independence. You flash forward just 3 years, and you're the team with the most wins and the most league wins in the Big 12 Conference over the last 2 years. You're tied for first in the league in each of the last 2 years. And after losing out on tiebreakers last year, you get into the big game this year. And if BYU wins, the Big 12 will be a two-bid league. And I'd love to say, even if BYU lost, the Big 12 will be a two-bid league, but we can't say that right now. Last year, I draw a lot of comparisons to BYU and SMU, right, from last year. SMU went in as an 11-1 team to the ACC title game, lost to Clemson. Even with that second loss, the committee put SMU in. SMU's benefit was it was 3 spots higher in the rankings, I believe, than BYU is right now. And you could argue that the fairness or unfairness of that. Certainly BYU shouldn't be behind 3 two-loss teams, but that's the way it is. If they were where SMU was last year, they could lose this game on Saturday and still be in the field. But 1 year later, the rankings look different, and as much as I'd love to rely on the SMU precedent, we know we can't. The committee would have to do a total about-face, a total reversal to bump BYU with a loss to Texas Tech, so you can't count on it. You can't count on them. You can't count on the media. You can't count on anybody but yourselves right now. And that's the real rallying cry for BYU, Hans. It's we can't count on anybody but ourselves. We have to do it ourselves. We have to win to get in, and that's the setup.
Well, I know you and I will give the effort. We'll be in the booth. We'll be calling this game. We'll start the pregame, 8 o'clock local. You get to hear Greg. You get to hear Matt Baiamonte. You get to hear myself, and take you right into the game, right into the call, and we'll bring the energy, we'll bring the insight. We're going to have a lot of fun, Greg. Thanks for the time today. Hans,
I'll see you soon. Appreciate you.
Yep. We'll see you out there soon. I catch a flight Friday. It'll be right after the show, 4:25, fly out to Dallas, wake up early Saturday morning, start that pregame, take you right into the coverage of the game. We got a lot more coming up. This is going to be a busy show. Mitch Juergens is going to join us, and so much more. Keeping it all BYU all the time for your Cougar Preview Show right here on 97.5 DKSL Sports.
Let's go! Complete game coverage of the Cougars is right here on the KSL Sports Zone. It's a Big 12 title game showdown for Kalani Sitake and the Cougars as they square off against Texas Tech for a spot in the college football playoff. Exclusive Big 12 title game coverage on the Zone is presented by JCW's, the Burger Boys, quality and a lot of it. This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G, presented by Mountain Land Supply on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Excited for our next guest because he's better looking than me. He's more intelligent than me. He gives better insight than me. He was a better BYU football player than me, makes more money than me, and Greg likes him more than me. It's our sideline reporter, Mitch Juergens. Single tear coming down my cheek as I talk to Mitch. Mitch, how are you, brother?
I'm good. That intro, I don't know how accurate that is.
Oh, across the board, it's accurate. You know it. You know it across the board, especially Greg liking you way more than he likes me. But just had Greg on. We just had a blast kind of going back and forth on this BYU Texas Tech. I'm calling it a rematch. Some call it a Big 12 championship game. I don't care what label you put on it. To me, Mitch, this is a rematch. And when you think about what happened on the field from game one, what do you see BYU needing to do to get the win in game two?
Oh, there's a lot. I could probably take this in a lot of different directions, but I'll try and kind of condense my thoughts here. Number one, and it's probably the obvious answer, you have to control the football. Don't turn it over. You got to win that turnover battle. I mean, when you go look back at last week, or last time BYU played Texas Tech, 3 turnovers to 0 takeaways. Like, I mean, you're not winning that game. You're not staying in that ball game, regardless of how well the team played outside of those turnovers. That's just when you play a team as good as Texas Tech, it's going to come down to, in a lot of instances, around that turnover margin. And if BYU can improve there, protect the football, and then if the defense can generate some takeaways, which is hard to do against Texas Tech. I mean, Baron Morton he's protected the football really well. Just 4 picks this season. And they've thrown the ball, really well across the board. He's averaging just under 300 yards a game. And so to do that with just 4 picks, I mean, it's going to be challenging, but this defense has proven to rise up. And I think that's going to be one of the big things there. Outside of that, offensively, you've got to mix it up. I felt like, it was the last time that they played, I think BYU was just too predictable and too conservative. And I personally just want to see Bear Bachmeier get loose and them to say, you know what, like, we're going to throw the rock. We're going to come out fast. We're going to, I'd even love to see it when the offense takes the field for the first time, go 2-minute offense, go fast, just mix it up and really just declare to Texas Tech, like, hey, we're here to make an impact. We're here to do some unique things offensively and just to keep that defense on their toes, because this is the best defense potentially in the entire nation. And so I want to just see some mix-ups there. Don't be too predictable, not too conservative. Like, if you're going to win it, go win it. Don't try and just win it by hoping that they make some mistakes. So, I mean, those are kind of the 2 things that I'd say, learning from that first matchup, what I want to see in this next one.
So, very interesting and different finishes to the season for Texas Tech and BYU. BYU has at Cincinnati, and then they finish with UCF. It's hard fought. And then after you finish with UCF, you get into this coaching contract, and Kalani Sitake sit down. With Texas Tech, you have a bye week, and then you've got West Virginia, which was done within 2 quarters. That game was over, and most of their starters were sitting. So you've got a bye week. You had a very easy West Virginia game, and Texas Tech. There wasn't as much speculation with Joey McGuire leaving. It was always assumed that he was going to stay, but he also got an extension yesterday. So much different kind of worlds that Texas Tech and BYU have been living in for the last 3 weeks. What do you think is more beneficial, and do you feel like maybe the way Texas Tech finished this season could be a distraction? Maybe they're getting too confident, or do you think that it was good for them to have all this time off?
Yeah, I mean, you think just naturally that these bye weeks are super helpful, and I'd love to run the data on this. I'm sure Greg, if we put Greg up to the task, he could give you some crazy stat about it, like teams coming off a bye week, what the record is, because naturally you think that the rest is going to help. You get guys healthy, and then you come out and you're ready to go. But to be honest, I don't know if that's always the case. Because sometimes you want to get in that groove. You want to feel like, hey, we've done this now 2 weeks in a row. We've fought, we've battled. And assuming you don't have a ton of injuries where you need guys to specifically rest to recover and then get to full health, it might even be better to just have this momentum of playing week after week. You're in a rhythm, you're in a good cadence, and so that potentially could play in BYU's favor there. As far as the coaching situation, I saw the live video of Kalani announcing that at practice that he was coming back, and you saw just how excited and just happy that the team was for Kalani to stick around. And I think that can add some motivation. Like, look, we just, we got our guy paid. We got our guy back for multiple years. Let's go prove to everybody and go finish this off the right way and show everyone that this was the right decision. And, I think, if I was in that locker room and I was a player, I'd be wanting to do even more this next game, to be more buttoned up, to be more dialed and ready to go, because, Kalani's our guy. Kalani's my guy. And I think they all want to prove that.
Man, that's the truth, isn't it? Kalani is a leader of men. Everybody feels like he's their best friend. Everybody feels like they can rely on him. And I saw all those motivational videos. And I got to imagine, Mitch, your time with Bronco Mendenhall was probably pretty incredible. And I'm sure you had a lot of great memories with him. But just seeing him being taken care of, seeing his emotions, I know I always kind of followed Lavelle Edwards' emotions. I was always very connected to what he was thinking and what he was doing. I got to imagine you were the same with Bronco, and I got to imagine this crew's the same with Kalani, don't you think?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I was in an interesting situation, or a different situation when Bronco was coach. So in 2015, Broncos last season, that was my junior year. So we actually got the news prior to the Vegas Bowl against Utah that Bronco was leaving and that he was taking the head coach job at Virginia. And even with him leaving, we felt this sense of pride to make sure that Bronco went out the right way. And that was with him not even coming back. And you develop these amazing relationships with your coaches, but specifically the head coach. I mean, they gamble a lot on you, and they put a lot of investment and time into you as an individual, and you spend so much time in that locker room and so much time on the football field going through really tough, difficult situations that just makes the man that you become, the individual that you become, the hardships that you face and how you overcome those, whether it's injury, whether it's worrying that you have a spot on the roster or on the depth chart. It's a constant battle, and so to go through that with leaders like Bronco Mendenhall and Kalani Sitake, I think it strengthens that relationship, and so you want to do anything and everything that you possibly can to help those guys, succeed. And just what a cool moment for BYU to see Kalani's impact, to get him to come back, and the energy and the juice that these players have, just knowing that, it would have been cool. I'm sure a lot of them would have been happy for Kalani had he left, because of the impact that he made on them as individuals. But how much cooler it is that he's going to just continue to ride it out with those guys in the locker room.
So, Mitch, we talk about this being a rematch, and I on my boards I keep notes of each win, how the win went down. With the Texas Tech game, I've got 29-7. I've got turnover margin was big, -3, and then I've got dropped passes were big. And I'm telling you, the JoJo Phillips drop is emblazoned into my mind. I think that was his first game back after missing the beginning part of the season. And that drop was so brutal. It was so painful. And it wasn't just him. I feel like every receiver that was targeted had at least one pretty blatant drop in that game. When you think of an opportunity to rematch and you think about your game against Texas Tech, how focused are these receivers on, by the way, no false starts, please? Because I think that there were either one or two false starts by receivers against Texas Tech, if I remember right, Mitch. No false starts, making sure if it hits your hands that you're able to come down with it. How laser focused do you think this group is to redeem themselves?
They're going to have to be, and I know for sure they are. I know Fessy, he's going to be preaching the exact same thing. Like this is a game, and not just the opponent of Texas Tech. Like they're a good football team, but then you add on, this is the Big 12 championship. Texas Tech is going to come ready to play. They're going to come ready to prove to the nation, like, hey, we beat them once, we're going to beat them again. This is their first time in the Big 12 championship, and so they've got a lot to prove and a lot that they want out of this game. And so you have to expect that they're going to come ready to play. They're going to come dialed. And so if I'm speaking to that receiver group, it's like, look, like if there's a time to step up and make the unexpected play, now is that time. because we saw what happened last time we played them when we didn't. Texas Tech is too good of a team to just be a little bit careless or not completely bought in to step up to the challenge. Because I want those receivers. It's not like, hey, this ball is coming, let me drift away from it. I want them like coming downhill back to the quarterback hard and doing things that a little bit more aggressively to put themselves in situations to succeed, because I think maybe that wasn't happening the last time against Texas Tech, or they're being a little bit too passive, or they, it's I'll catch this, but if they make a play, then okay, maybe it's not completely my fault. Like, no, they need to go take control of the opportunity, every single one that they have, and it is a must. They have to catch the football. So it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out. But I do like the fact that Chase is back. Parker's in a groove. JoJo has gotten some game experience. He's even had, the last game, he had a really good toe drag catch on the sideline. And so he's doing it. He can be that guy, but it's going to be all mental, all attitude. And if those guys want it, we'll be able to tell pretty quickly on the field with how they play and how aggressively they come back to the football and how aggressively they fight for it when it's in the air. We'll be able to see that fight and if they've really have come to play.
Mitch, there's an outlier here with Bear Bachmeier, and I'm going to kind of give you the numbers on this, but I'm throwing the UCF game out because I happen to know what they were trying to do with Bear Bachmeier in that UCF game as far as his rushing. They kept him under 10 carries, and obviously his yardage was really low. So I'm going to leave the UCF game out. But these are his numbers going back to the Colorado game. 98 yards rushing, 43, 89 yards rushing, 64, 49 yards rushing, 12, 59 yards rushing, 46 yards rushing, touchdown, 2 touchdowns, touchdown, 0 touchdown, 1 and 1. So 12 yards, 0 touchdowns against Texas Tech. When you look at his other numbers, you can see this offense really needs him to rush in order to function. So you talked about what you want to do schematically against Texas Tech. How important is it for Bear Bachmeier to be involved in the run game? And is there any correlation to his rushing yards and what the potential outcome is of this Texas Tech game?
Yeah, I mean, I think you bring up a really good point, and I think to answer your question, absolutely. He has to be able to move the football. I mean, when you look at Texas Tech on the stat sheet, they're number 1 in the country in rush yards allowed at 68.9 rush yards. That's absurd. Teams are not getting in a good momentum on the ground. They're completely controlling the game at the line of scrimmage, and these offenses can't get going. If Bear can get going, if he can put up, on average, he's right in that 40 to 45 yard range. If he can get there, well, that becomes a guy that you have to account for. And then with the heater that LJ's on right now, I mean, he looks better than he's looked all season. That's going to open up that run game for LJ Martin. If both of those guys can get going, and if the defense has to account for Bear. And so, if we can see Bear in the 35 plus 40 yard range, I have confidence that if that's the case, then LJ Martin should be, 60, 70 plus. And now you're putting up over 100 yards on the ground against a Texas Tech team that doesn't allow more than 70. And then that should open up the pass lanes and should, get Texas Tech to really feel like if they want to stop that duo, they're going to have to make some adjustments, which could open up some other opportunities on the field. So I think it's critical. And I think Bear, we're now at the Big 12 championship game. Not sure what the future has for the rest of the season. Hopefully it's a win, and then they can get into the CFP. But you have to expect too that, Bear, if there's a game where Bear's going to lay his body out on the line, it's this one, a chance to bring home the trophy. So I expect it, and I think it needs to be there to just try and knock Texas Tech's defense back and give them something that really not many teams have been able to do all season.
I got to tell you, I went back and watched some of the film on it, and when Bear Bachmeier did take off against Texas Tech, he was so timid. You watch him take off against rival Utah, and it's a completely different beast. But I'm watching the film, and I'm like, wait, he's kind of tap-toeing. He's not going downhill. He's not getting aggressive. He's not forcing himself. And I don't know if that was part of the plan, but I'm with you. I think it's really critical for him to have his confidence. I do think taking this game out of Lubbock and putting it in a sold-out 92,000-seat stadium that's going to probably be 50-50, I would imagine, maybe 40-60 BYU fans to Texas Tech fans. I just think we're going to see a different Bear Bachmeier. Mitch, thanks for everything. I will see you at the airport. I know you're headed out on Friday. We'll get ourselves into the stadium. You'll get down on the sidelines, and we'll be calling this game in just a few days. Thanks, buddy.
Hey, thanks, Hans. Appreciate it.
You bet. There you go, sideline broadcaster Mitch Juergens for BYU. Does a fantastic job. Hans and Scotty, more Cougar Preview Show. Wages on coming up next.